This lesson is email address, phone, URL, and credit card annotations. The objectives for this lesson are to use common validations such as the email address, phone, URL, and credit card. Let's start out and look at validating emails using the email address attribute. So I want you to go back to the user class, and where we previously had put this regular expression above email address, just go ahead and use the email address annotation. Go back to Program.cs and change this back to an invalid email address. And when we now run this, you can see the first error message, the email address field is not a valid email address. Now, if we change it back to a valid one, now we should only get that the phone number is now failing. Next up, let's take a look at validating phone numbers using the phone attribute. So all we're doing really is we're substituting. Instead of using the regular expression, we're now using these built-in annotation attributes that Microsoft has provided for us. Once again, locate the regular expression above the phone number and simply type in phone. If we go back to Program.cs, email address is valid, but the phone is not valid. So now we should get this error message from the phone annotation. So the phone number field is not a valid phone number. And just to check, if we were to put it in the correct format, like so, the entity should now be valid. Let's take a look at another annotation that's pretty common and is used in a lot of applications, thus the reason Microsoft built it in to their data annotations, and that is the URL attribute. Open the product class, and just below product number, let's add another full property called product URL, and above it, we're going to add the URL attribute as well as the display attribute. So this is like the URL to where the product is located. If we then go back to the Program.cs, we're going to swap out that user entity and replace it once again with the product entity. And if you look at the product URL here now on line 11, it's www.badurl-com. And if we run this, you can see that it's going to tell us that the product URL field is not a valid, fully qualified HTTP, HTTPS, or FTP URL. So not only does it have to be valid, it also has to have one of those monikers in front of it. So if we go back and we put that in, like so, and let's go ahead and make this something real, and we go ahead and run it, now the entity is valid. Let's now take a look at validating credit cards using the credit card attribute. Right mouse click on the Entity Classes folder and let's add a new class called, you guessed it, Credit Card. And we'll just drop in yet again another class. This one's called Credit Card, and you can see that I've got a required, a display name for the public string card type, and then I have the name on the card property with its appropriate annotations. And then look at this one, the card number property has the credit card annotation above it. So again, just one of these nice little attributes that Microsoft has given us in order to validate things that they know are very common. And if you look down a little bit here, you can see that on lines 19 through 21, I have the expiration month. I've defaulted it to a 1, and I've made the range between 1 and 12. And then look at the expiration year there. I made the range between 2024 and 2030. Now, that is hard-coded at this point, but later on in this course, I'll show you how to make that a dynamic range. So let's go ahead and go into our Program.cs. Let's swap out the product entity here with now a credit card entity. And we'll set the card type to Visa, and we'll set the card number to something that I know is not a valid card number, and the rest of the properties are set correctly. Let's go ahead and run this. And now you can see the credit card number field is not a valid credit card number. So there we go. We got some really nice common data annotations that we can use throughout any application. So in this lesson, We saw that we can replace the regular expression with email address and phone. We also validated URLs using the URL attribute, and we validated credit card numbers using CreditCard. Coming up next, compare two property values using the compare attribute.